The rhythmic hum of Anika Rao's sewing machine was the constant soundtrack to her life, a metallic heartbeat against the cacophony of Mumbai's Dharavi. At 19, Anika's fingers danced across fabric with a practiced grace that belied her years, coaxing intricate patterns from plain cotton and vibrant silk. Her small, sun-baked room, no bigger than a generous cupboard, was her sanctuary and her prison. A place where dreams were stitched into existence, but where the walls constantly reminded her of the world's limitations. Every morning before the city truly woke, Anika would be at her singer machine, the whirring of familiar comfort. Her AI, her mother, would already be bustling, preparing chai for the family. Her face etched with the silent worries that poverty leaves behind. Their chawl, a maze of narrow alleys and tightly packed dwellings, was a microcosm of struggle and resilience. Here, women worked tirelessly, often invisibly, contributing to their families with meager earnings from beading, embroidery, or domestic work. Anika saw their strength, their untapped potential, and a quiet ache settled in her heart. She dreamed of more than just surviving. She yearned for a life where women could thrive, where their skill was their power. One sweltering afternoon, a week after monsoon season had begrudgingly retreated, a desperate wail echoed through the narrow lane. It was Leela, their neighbor, her husband having suffered a debilitating accident at the construction site. He was lucky to be alive, but his right arm was permanently damaged. Leela, a skilled embroiderer, was now the sole provider for their 2 young children and her ailing husband, but without a regular income, despair clung to her like a shroud. Anika watched as Leela sold her intricate, unfinished work for pennies, her eyes hollow. It hit Anika hard. Leela was talented, dedicated, yet utterly vulnerable. This wasn't just Leela's story. It was a common narrative here. That night, the hum of her machine felt different, heavy with a new purpose. An idea, nascent and terrifying, began to take root in Anika's mind. What if Leela didn't have to sell her soul for scraps? What if all the skilled women in their chawl, those hidden gems, could combine their talents, share their burdens, and collectively demand fair wages? The thought kept her awake. Cooperative. A sisterhood of stitches. The next morning, armed with a fresh batch of chai and a heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination, Anika broached the idea with her AI. Her mother, ever practical, listened with a furrowed brow. Anika, child, it is a kind thought. But who will fund it? Who will find the orders? We barely manage ourselves. But I think, if we work together we can take bigger orders. We can set our own prices. We won't be at the mercy of middlemen, Anika pleaded, her voice gaining strength. Leela, she has such beautiful embroidery. Radhanti, her tailoring is perfect. Even young Priya, she's learning so fast. Her eye sighed, a hint of a smile touching her lips. This wild imagination of yours, Anika. But if anyone can make it happen, it's you. That small flicker of belief was all Anika needed. Anika's first recruit was Radha, a woman in her late 40s with a sharp tongue and an even sharper needle. Radha had seen enough dreams crumble in Dharavi to be perpetually skeptical. A cooperative. What is this, some government scheme that will take our money and give us empty promises? She scoffed, mending a torn sari with expert precision. Anika, undeterred, sat beside her. No, Radhanti, it's our scheme. No one takes our money. We pool what little we have. Our machines, our skills, our time. We work together, and we share the profits equally. She painted a picture of dignity, of control, of a future where they weren't just piece-rate workers but entrepreneurs. Radha still looked unconvinced. Who will lead? Who will manage? We will, Anika insisted. All of us. I'll start, but it will be all of us. Radha finally conceded, a grudging nod that Anika interpreted as a small victory. Fine. Show me this magic. But don't come crying when it all unravels. Next was Priya, a bright-eyed 16-year-old, whose family could barely afford her schooling. She was thrilled at the prospect. I can learn so much, Anika Didi. I can help with the finishing, the buttons. Word spread like wildfire through the chawl, fueled by curiosity and a desperate yearning for change. Soon a handful of women. Leela, her eyes regaining a spark of hope. Meena, a quiet woman with a knack for tailoring. Sunita, whose nimble fingers were perfect for delicate tasks, gathered in Anika's small room. It was barely enough space for 3 machines, let alone 6 women and their dreams. The first hurdle was space. Anika spotted an unused, dusty corner in the communal chawl hall, long abandoned but relatively clean. With permission from the elders and a week of strenuous cleaning, scrubbing and whitewashing, it transformed into their modest workshop. Pooling their meager savings, they bought a handful of basic tools. Better scissors, measuring tapes, quality threads. Anika even managed to convince a reluctant shopkeeper to sell them a small bolt of good quality cotton on credit. Their first order was small, 20 tea towels for a newly opened cafe in Colaba, intricate embroidery of a steaming cup of chai. It paid barely enough to cover the cost of materials and a tiny profit share, but it was a start. The women clustered around, each taking on a part of the process, their laughter and chatter filling the small space. Anika, despite her youth, naturally stepped into the role of coordinator, organizing tasks, ensuring quality, and handling the tricky negotiations with the cafe owner. The initial months were a roller coaster of small victories and daunting challenges. An old machine broke down, threatening to halt production on a rush order for children's kurtas. Radha, with her years of experience, expertly patched it up with a clever contraption of spare parts. Sometimes an order wouldn't come, and anxiety would grip the group. Anika spent evenings walking through the bustling markets, talking to small shopkeepers, showing samples, her voice hoarse from persuasion. Their reputation slowly began to grow, word spreading about the quality of their work, their reliability, and, most importantly, the fair prices they offered. They didn't just stitch clothes. They stitched stories of dedication into every seam. Anika insisted on maintaining high standards, meticulously checking each piece, teaching the women new techniques, and encouraging them to take pride in their craft. Leela's embroidery began to adorn elegant blouses, Meena's tailoring gave structure to beautiful dresses, and even Priya, under Radha's stern but affectionate guidance, mastered the art of perfect buttonholes. One day, a young woman named Amy, an assistant buyer for a high-end boutique in Bandra, stumbled upon their small stall at a local community fair Anika had nervously set up. Amy was captivated by a set of exquisitely embroidered cushion covers. "Who made these?" she asked, her eyes wide. Anika, heart fluttering, introduced herself and explained their cooperative. Amy listened intently, then asked, "Can you handle a larger order?" "4 designer blouses." This was it. The chance they had been dreaming of. Anika, trying to keep her voice steady, nodded. "We can." The order from Arohi, the boutique, was massive. 100 designer blouses, each with intricate hand embroidery and tailored to precise specifications. It was a leap of faith, requiring an investment in finer silks, heavier embroidery threads, and, most critically, a timeline that felt impossibly tight. Anika presented the opportunity to the women, her voice filled with a mixture of excitement and caution. "This means long hours, higher stakes. But it also means a future for us all." There were murmurs of apprehension, but then Radha, surprisingly, spoke up. "We've mended more than just clothes in this room, Anika. We've mended our courage. We can do this." Her words sparked a wave of agreement. The small workshop buzzed with renewed energy. Days bled into nights. Anika meticulously planned the workflow, delegating tasks, ensuring that Radha and Meena focused on tailoring while Leela and Sunita led the embroidery teams. Priya, now more confident, managed the quality control, her sharp eyes missing no loose thread or uneven stitch. Anika herself balanced negotiating with suppliers, managing finances, and stepping in wherever an extra pair of hands was needed. Just when they were halfway through the order, disaster struck. The electricity, always temperamental in the chawl, went out for an entire day, then another. The heat became unbearable, the machines stood silent, and panic began to set in. The deadline loomed threateningly. Anika paced, her mind racing. They couldn't afford to miss this. We can't just sit here, Priya exclaimed, frustrated. What will we do? Radha, ever the pragmatist, pointed to the large windows. We have daylight for a few more hours. Let's do the handwork. The embroidery, the finishing. We can prepare everything for when the power returns. Anika's eyes lit up. Exactly. And for the tailoring? There's an old treadle machine at home, slow, but it works. We can use that for the urgent pieces. The women rallied. They brought their own small lamps and candles in the evenings, working by the dim, flickering light, their needles dancing in the shadows. They divided tasks more efficiently than ever, driven by a shared sense of urgency and determination. Anika tirelessly pedaled the old treadle machine at home, coaxing perfectly formed seams from the silk, her legs aching but her spirit resolute. The power finally returned on the third day, a mere 48 hours before the deadline. The machines roared back to life, and the workshop became a hive of intense, focused activity. Anika, her eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep, personally oversaw every final detail. When Amy arrived to inspect the finished blouses, she gasped. They are exquisite. Even better than I imagined. Her fingers traced the delicate embroidery, the perfect seams. She barely noticed the faint dark circles under Anika's eyes. The cooperative had not only met the deadline but had surpassed expectations on quality. The success of the Arohi order was transformative. Payments flowed in, allowing the cooperative to pay the women fair wages, invest in new, quieter sewing machines, and even rent a larger self-contained workshop just a few lanes away. The new space had better ventilation, proper lighting, and enough room for more women to join. Anika, no longer just a seamstress, became Anika Didi, the visionary. The cooperative, now officially named Navya Drishti, New Vision, became a beacon of hope for their community. Leela's children started going to a good school, their fees paid from their mother's steady income. Priya, after completing her schooling, became a full-time member, her skills honed, her confidence soaring. Radha, her cynicism replaced by pride, became Anika's trusted second-in-command, mentoring the new recruits. The women of Navya Drishti didn't just stitch clothes. They stitched a new fabric for their lives. They had dignity, independence, and a voice. They learned not just about tailoring but about managing finances, marketing, and the power of collective action. Their earnings meant healthier food, better education for their children, and even small improvements to their homes. The once invisible women of the chawl were now visible, respected, and empowered. One evening, as the setting sun cast a golden glow over their bustling workshop, Anika stood by the window, watching the rhythmic dance of the sewing machines, listening to the joyful chatter. Gone were the anxious whispers, replaced by confident laughter. Anika's AI, now a regular presence, her face beaming with quiet pride, placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "See, Anika," her mother said softly, "your wild imagination was not so wild after all." Anika smiled, a deep, contented warmth spreading through her. The threads of Mumbai, once frayed by poverty, were now interwoven with hope, resilience, and the unbreakable spirit of women who dared to dream of a better future, one stitch at a time. The hum of the machines was no longer just the soundtrack to her life. It was the symphony of a community rising. That will be all for today. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. Goodbye.